Hey, tap for another out of this world story from our space. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Well, not always. Today on our space, be careful what you bring back from your vacation. Sometimes that burning sensation isn't just burning with desire. Wife got STD test after attending her friend's wedding. I handed her the divorce papers. When people say one moment can change your life, they probably talk about my life. It amazes me how one small piece of paper discovered from my wife's purse changed everything in my life. I, 37 male, married my college sweetheart 10 years ago. Prior to that, we dated for 6 years, so in total, we know each other from 16 years. I'll call her Dove, 37 female. She was my classmate in college, and I consider her my soulmate. She indeed was. A month ago, Dove's friend was getting married in a fairy tale wedding in Las Vegas. I was also invited to the wedding but had something urgent at work that same week, so I skipped it. It was an elaborate event which lasted for a week. When Dove returned from the wedding, she was unusually quiet. I asked her if everything was fine. She said she was just tired after the week-long wedding festivities. It seemed natural to me, so I gave her the space she needed to wind up. However, it started troubling me when Dove's behavior turned cold towards me. Not only did she become quiet, but she became irritated at me. She started ignoring me and got agitated at every conversation. Not to mention, our sex life was almost null. Whenever I initiated, she used to snap at me and say she was not in the mood. It's been almost a month now since she returned for the wedding, but we didn't have one intimate moment together. If this was not enough, I found something inside her bag yesterday, which has made me anxious. It was a hospital bill. Dove had done an STD test just the next day after returning from the wedding. Isn't it weird? Why would she do that? And why didn't she tell me about this? I know it means something obvious. I love her selflessly, but I'm not a simp to just ignore such a huge red flag. I'm not yet ready to confront her regarding my findings, but before I do, I wanted to have a complete information about the STD test. I just don't want to confront her with any half-baked information. I treasure my marriage and my relationship with Dove, and I just don't want to destroy it in a moment of impulse. I have researched my best on this subject, and while doing so, I bumped into this page where several men and women have shared their stories where they have found their partner undertaking STD tests secretively. More often than not, it is related to cheating. That is why I'm here to share my story and see if I'm overreading between the lines. I'm feeling guilty to admit this, but I've also sneaked into Dove's phone a few days ago. I scrolled through all her chat lists and call records, but could not find anything doubtful. It was also clean. I also checked her social media account, but it was also clean. I don't know if I should feel bad about doubting her or if I should be assured that I'm being alert. I thought of contacting the friends who attended the wedding with Dove to check if anything unusual had happened there. But the thing is, it was Dove's school friend's wedding, so none of our college friends were a part of it. I'm friends with her school friend, but not to the extent that I can ask anything from them without Dove's knowledge. The situation feels so weird because, in the last 10 years of being together with Dove, she never gave me any reason to suspect her. We were always very transparent with each other. Edit to add, I forgot to mention that the bill indicated that she made the appointment on the day after returning from the trip. However, the date of the test mentioned was of yesterday's, and the date of the report is given after a week. Dove's behavior was concerning me from the time she returned from the trip. I checked her phone a few days ago but couldn't find anything. Yesterday, when Dove returned home, after the test, she looked very exhausted and tensed. I got suspicious when she carefully hid her bag inside the wardrobe. Usually, she leaves it on the table or the couch. I behaved as if I didn't notice it, but I was keeping a close eye on every move of hers. When she went to the washroom for shower, I checked her purse and found the hospital bill for the STD test. Honestly, if she feels a need to hide it, she'd done something she feels guilty of, OP. The only other reason she'd get tested for an STD is if she thought you were the one cheating. On top of it all, the timing of it is just too suspicious to not mean anything. Update 1. Hello all. After reading the comments on my post, I realized I didn't give any background information about me or Dove. I didn't think it was relevant to the post. Nevertheless, I have replied to a few of you in the comments, but for general information, let me add a few facts. Dove and I graduated from the same college. We both are software engineers and work for different IT companies. We have a 6-year-old son. Financially, we had a stable life, a quite decent one. We were a pretty happy family until now, until Dove decided to screw up everything. After discovering the medical bill for an STD test from Dove's purse, I was restless. The comments in my last post, as well as the stories of other victims, all indicated one thing. Dove cheated on me. Initially, I wanted to wait until the test results were out before confrontation, but I was choking up from the inside. I could no longer hold it back. Dove also noticed that I was behaving differently. The day I made the post, she even asked me if everything was all right. I just nodded and faked a smile. She thought that maybe I was retaliating for her rude behavior. So, a day after I made my post, we sat at the dinner table. As we started eating, Dove again asked me if I was doing well. I nodded yes, but after a while, I couldn't hold back myself and I blurted out, "How was your STD test?" She looked at me, shocked. I repeated, "Yeah, that STD test you took a few days back?" She turned pale and asked me how did I discover it. I said it doesn't matter. Then she said the most classic line, "I can explain." I stared at her straight and told her to explain. She sighed and took a deep breath while I kept staring at her patiently. She started weeping. The moment she started sobbing, my heart sank. I understood that my suspicions were true. Dove held my hand and told me to believe her. I told her I could believe her only if she said anything. But instead of saying anything, she pulled her chair closer to me, leaned on my shoulder, held my arms tightly, and cried. I let her emotions flow out. In the last 16 years of our relationship, I have never left her crying. Even with her slightest tears, I used to hug and cheer her up. But this time, I sat unmoved. She tried to come closer to me and hold my arms as tightly as she could, but I didn't knock her back. I sat there cold like an ice rock. Finally, when she was done crying, she freed my arms and confessed everything. It was on her friend's bachelor trip. In the week-long wedding festivities of her friend, the first 2 days were bachelor trip to Vegas. The event manager had arranged for strippers, male escorts, and whatnot. That day, I got to know so many new terms that I was not at all familiar with earlier. She told me that the bride and her other friends enjoyed all the services right from the start on day one, but Dove resisted. Her friends forced her, but she didn't. She saw the bride and her other friends having a thrilling time, fulfilling all their fantasies with those escorts, but she restrained herself. I usually used to believe her as she was never a liar, but this time, it was just difficult for me to fully trust her story. I asked her if she did it because she felt out of place. She said that her bride friend convinced her that she had never seen any other man in the last 16 years, hence, she needed to taste new blood. Her friends elaborated on how these escorts use several techniques to give them new edge pleasures. Dove still didn't give in, but her friend convinced her for an intimate massage. Dove finally gave in to the peer pressure and said yes to the massage. She thought the massage would not qualify as cheating, and she could also dodge the peer pressure. However, the masseur was an escort. After the back massage, he started undressing her fully. She resisted, but he said it was an intimate massage, so she had to undress. She confessed to losing her self-control during the intimate massage and gave in. One thing led to another, and she cheated on me. But this was not enough. When Dove told her friends about her encounter with the masseur, they cheered for her and insisted she should further explore. They also assured Dove that it would be confidential, nothing would ever reach me. Dove thought she had already done it once and cheated on me. So, there was no point in resisting further. She decided to better explore her fantasy. I was glad that she honestly confessed everything. She knew I wouldn't forgive her even if she did it once. I just sat there lifeless, trying to absorb whatever Dove said. I knew my life was going to change. The woman in front of me was the love of my life. And that was why her betrayal inflicted such a grave pain on me. Dove nudged me to say something, as I had not spoken a word since she confessed. I buried my face in my palms. She tried to hold my hand and lift my face, but I resisted. Finally, when I looked at her, I said I was going to file for divorce. She was shocked and said I should not make an impulsive decision because we have a son. I yelled at her to stop showing her fake concern for her son and her family. If she had the slightest concern for the family, she wouldn't have done what she did. I took my car keys and left the house. She tried to follow me, but I shrugged her off. I drove off to my friend's place, who was living alone. He recently had a divorce. That's a separate story anyway. I drank until I passed out. The next morning, I called in sick at work. My friend went to the office while I lounged on his couch, searching for the divorce lawyers. I stumbled upon a lawyer who was my junior in school. He was added to my Instagram account, so I messaged him. He responded within a couple of hours. I asked for a call. He sensed the urgency and desperateness in my messages and called me back within 30 minutes. His next available appointment slot was about 4 days later, but since I knew him, he asked if I could meet him late in the evening after work. I readily agreed. Instead of calling me at his office, he asked me to meet for a drink. So the last evening, Dove confessed her cheating, and the next evening, I was sitting with my lawyer and discussing my divorce. He asked me to sleep over my decision and see if the emotion subsided, and I decided to give her a chance. I told him that I was mindfully making this decision. I relayed my divorce terms to him, and he assured me of starting the paperwork immediately. I requested him to fast-track the process because I want to get done with it as soon as possible. Anyone who heard me would have assumed I was making an impulsive decision, but I was not. I love Dove, but not more than my self-respect. I told him that I trusted Dove with my life, and if I'm taking this decision, it is definitely severe. I cannot let her get away with the cheating. The next day, I went home in the afternoon. I thought she would be at work, but she was at home. She'd become miserable just in the last few days. As soon as she saw me, she rushed towards me and tried to hug me, asking me where I had been for the last 2 days and why I was not responding to her calls and messages. I wanted to push her away, but she looked so pale and fragile that I could not do so. I let her hug me, but I didn't touch her. I stood stiff. She kept saying sorry, but I remained unmoved. She held my face with her palms and nudged me to say something. She said my silence was killing her. I asked about her son. She said she had dropped him to my parents' house for a few days. I freed myself, went to my room, and bolted it. She would not have let me pack if I had let her in. I packed some of my clothes, laptop, tabs, and essentials, and hurriedly left for the house while she was in the kitchen. She followed me outside, trying to stop me, but I didn't look back and drove off. I checked into a hotel and then went to my parents' house to meet my son. I wanted to tell him everything, but I resisted because I had something else in mind. It's almost a week now. I'm working from the hotel. I had taken permission to work remotely for this month. Dove tried to contact me through all possible means: calls, texts, voicemails, showing up at my workplace, crashing my friend's place, and local bars and restaurants that I had often visit. One of our common friends called me today and asked me if I was fine. He said that Dove had been looking for me in the entire city. I asked him if she had told him the reason. He said that whoever is asking, Dove has been telling them that I left the house after a severe argument about something. I said yes, I'm safe, but I needed some time to cool off. A few hours ago, I called in my lawyer to follow up regarding the divorce papers. He said to have it shipped to me in the next few days. I'm waiting until the divorce papers arrive. I'll make an update once I sort out this case. I'm sorry, OP. There's no excuse for that. She shouldn't have felt like she needed to explore those fantasies with anyone other than you, her husband. Not only that, but what type of friends talks her married friend into cheating? Now look at what she's done. She's completely thrown her life away as if all those years meant nothing. I wonder if those fantasies of hers were worth it. Update 2. It took a while for me to update this, but I wanted to sort out everything before making an update. This would be my last update. So, after 10 days of the D-Day, the divorce paper arrived. It was Saturday. The next morning I went to my house. The situation was the same. Dove was lifelessly lying on the couch while my son was playing in the living room. He ran towards me and hugged me, as we hadn't met in the last week. This time, Dove was stiff. She didn't hug me. Instead, she gave me a cold stare. I played with my son for a few minutes and then left him alone and sat on the chair. Dove looked at me with a straight face and asked what did I want. I smirked at her question without saying anything. She asked if there was anything she could do to make things better. I still remained quiet. After a while, she said, "Look, I know I've hurt you and ruined everything, but I'm guilty about it. I accept what I did as was a grave crime. But you need to see that I could have skipped the STD test, and you would never have known about it. But I took the test for your safety and avoided sex to protect you. I love you. I'm sorry for what I did. But you also need to acknowledge that I honestly confessed to the truth when I could have easily cooked up some lies. So, we need to solve this situation instead of running away from it. Tell me if there's anything I can do to fix this." I told her yes. I told her to confess for cheating in front of my parents or hers. She gave me a stern look. I said, "What? You can't do it, right?" She took a deep breath and said if this was something that would make me happy and satisfied, she was ready to take a shot. I asked her to go on and invite them in the evening. After staring at me for a couple of minutes and seeing the coldness in my eyes, she took her phone and called up her parents and mine one by one, asking them to join us this evening. After the call, she looked at me with defeated eyes. I took a shower, was surfing on my iPad when she entered the room and said she had prepared a lunch for us. I wanted to avoid it, but I knew from within that it was going to be our last meal as a family. So I went and sat at the table. She served me and my son, and we all ate it together. I felt bad seeing my son's face that it was mostly the last time he was having a meal together with his parents. I know I would be called egotistic and chauvinist for destroying my happy family for just one mistake of Dove, but I don't care what others think of me. I know when my son grows up, he will be glad that I chose my self-respect over my love and emotions. It is necessary that a child grows up with happy parents who might be living separately than frustrated parents who are trapped in a broken marriage. And our marriage was broken at the moment Dove opened her legs for other men. After lunch, Dove took our son to his room for an afternoon nap. After putting him to sleep, when she returned to our bedroom, I was scrolling my phone. She tried to touch me. I stopped her and asked her if STD reports had come. She said that she had come clean and started touching me again. Knowing that it would be our last time, I gave in. That was the most thrilling sex we had in a long time. After we were done, I felt so guilty and sad, but also satisfied to be with her. She was the only woman I had been with in the last 16 years. I loved her, and it broke me to the core to think that I was going to push her away from me forever. I also regretted having sex with her because it would have given her hope of reconciliation. She fell asleep on my arms as if she hadn't slept for many nights. I looked at her face and wondered how she could do this to us. I don't know when I dozed off while staring at her pretty face. We woke up when her son knocked on the door. I opened the door for him. He played with us on the bed. It was such a bliss. At that moment, I truly felt like retreating from my decision and giving another chance to my marriage. But I suppressed it and went out of bed. It was early evening. I sat in the living room waiting for my parents and in-laws to arrive. After a while, our parents were there. After everyone settled down, Dove called me into the kitchen and asked with an intense eye if I really wanted to do this. I said yes. She then went outside and told everyone that she had something to confess. She told them that she cheated on me at her friend's wedding, but it didn't mean anything. She loved me and could do anything for me. She went on to say that she had confessed about this to me, and I wanted her to inform everyone about this. It happened so fast that my parents thought it to be a prank. I said it was not a prank and added that she had confessed when I found the STD test bill in her purse. Her parents looked down in embarrassment and anger. My parents were also disappointed, but they didn't say anything. I told everyone that I also had something to say, and it was that I had filed for divorce. I pulled out the divorce papers and started reading the terms of the divorce. Dove tried to interrupt me, but I continued. I gave her the house in which she and my son could live while I moved out. We both would have joint custody of her son, and I would pay my share of the child support. After reading it, I handed over the papers to her. She gave me a disgusted look and said I tricked her into this. She glanced at the papers and signed it right away. Her parents stood up and left immediately without saying a word. My parents also left, but while leaving, they asked if I wanted to move in with them for some time. I nodded and said I'll see. Dove went to her son's room and locked it from the inside. Not only did she feel humiliated in front of her parents and in-laws, but she felt defeated that all those confessions and humiliations was for nothing. I packed my remaining stuff and left the house. I wanted to meet my son, but I knew Dove wouldn't let me do so. That was the reason she had locked herself in his room. After that evening, I didn't get any calls or texts from Dove. After 45 days or so, we were presented in the court, where our divorce was settled amicably as none of us contested. We didn't say anything to each other and parted ways after it was over. It's been more than a week since the divorce was settled. I've been busy throughout, finding a house and settling in there. We may cross paths because of our son, but it's going to be only transactional. I still feel empty and frustrated because I know I have also hurt her and humiliated her. Maybe we both got what we deserved. Wow, how generous of her to take the STD test to protect you when all of that could have been avoided if she had remained loyal. Who does she think she is here? A hero? You're absolutely right, OP. How could she do that to you? I'm so sorry. You and your son didn't deserve that. But you shouldn't feel bad or frustrated. She humiliated herself the moment she caved and, as you said, opened her legs to another man. She tried to make a fool out of you. She tried to hide it from you. Those are some despicable acts. You've done everything right and in the best interest of your son, which is far more than she can say. What do you make of OP's actions after finding the STD test? Would you have done anything different? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today on Our Space. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.